All right, and we are live. Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another live stream. This evening we're going to discuss getting prepared for what is next because 2024 is right around the corner. We're already sitting at the end of November. Before you know it, the Christmas holiday will be here and gone, and we will be into another year. And 2024 is going to be a wild ride. It's an election year. There's a lot of things that could disrupt the status quo in 2024. We're on the verge of a major financial event here in the US and around the world. We have got the world on the verge of major regional conflicts in different theaters of the world. It's been some time before the world has been this geopolitically on edge. We've also got skyrocketing debts here in the US. We've got civil unrest on the rise around the world. So there's a lot of things we need to be getting prepared for. There's a lot of things I think it's important to do. Of course, I don't give financial advice on this channel, but right now I don't think it's the time to be going out and spending money on a new big screen TV, to be blowing cash on a Black Friday or Cyber Monday sale, getting the next consumer electronic or whatever item, we buy to get the dopamine flowing. But I do think it is an important time to get into hard assets. Gold, silver, I think it's an important time to be stacking cash away, to be conserving resources, to be trying to, take advantage of the times that we have that are still good. And if you want to get your hands on some gold and silver, right now they still have some Black Friday sales going on over at sdbullion.com. You can see they've got some deals on kilo bars, Eagles. They've got a Johnson Matthey bar for $9.99 over spot. So definitely check that out. Those sales will not last long. But listen, the price of gold and the price of silver are on the move. So even with those Black Friday deals, it's still going to cost you a little bit more to get an ounce of gold or an ounce of silver. I saw someone in the chat there said silver's a ripoff right now, and that's pretty funny because silver is at 24 bucks, 24,665. This is the December contract for silver futures, and yeah, it's not as cheap to stack today as it was a week ago. And I mentioned when silver prices were lower, then I think the main regret we would have would be not having stacked more at those low prices. But I think the same still goes for silver under 25 bucks. Think about it. Gold is on the move once again. Gold is now up. December futures contract at $2,012, knocking on all-time highs. I mean, 2,100 is around the nominal all-time high. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but silver is still at half of its 2011 high and just a mere fraction of its inflation-adjusted all-time high. So, even though the metals are moving up, I still think they represent a huge bargain. But again, it's more than just gold and silver. Of course, I do think that that is an important thing to be stacking, to be squirreling away hard assets, hard assets that are actually in your physical possession, things that aren't in one of these insolvent financial institutions, things that can't be bailed in, things that can't be devalued via bailouts. But, good idea to have some cash on hand too, I think, because you never know. I mean, there could be opportunities to acquire assets on the cheap should we get a deflationary collapse. But one reason why really I still favor hard assets over gold and silver is all the uncertainty that's coming in 2024. The possibility of large regional wars, the possibility of dollar devaluation, the continuing process of de-dollarization. We just saw China and Saudi Arabia sign a bilateral trade deal that's denominated in their currencies. All these things, there's a lot of uncertainty as we head into 2024. One thing that is basically baked into the cake, that is guaranteed, is that this number right here, the U.S. national debt, now at almost $33.8 trillion, is going to continue to expand at an incredibly rapid pace. I think the deficits that we're witnessing right now, which are basically all-time records for peacetime, are going to continue to expand. And 2024 is going to be a year when a lot of money gets printed. Let's put it that way, because these banks are on the verge of a major crisis. We've got the Bank Term Funding Program here over at the Federal Reserve, the emergency lending facility established in March. You can see it continues to move up. It's now at $114 billion. These are emergency swaps. Basically, the Fed takes devalued U.S. Treasuries as collateral for loans. They inject liquidity into the banks, and you continue to see that number, excuse me, that number continues to move much higher. And that is going to continue because, we have a debt addicted economy. That's the bottom line. And until the Fed blinks and reverses their tightening, their tightening, which is aimed at reducing inflation, well, inflation is still going to persist. But the thing that will happen is the Fed will create a financial crisis by maintaining this persistently tighter monetary policy. But look at this. This is the CME FedWatch tool. Looks like in December, we're not going to get a rate hike. According to what this is forecasting, a 1.9% chance of another 25 basis point rate hike. So what is it? Why is the Fed so scared of hiking rates further, despite the fact that inflation remains well above their target of 2%? Well, it's because they know that the banks are insolvent and that it's more likely that they're going to have to start printing rather than hiking. I mean, Powell talks a lot about how now the risks are more balanced side to side. And I mean, the thing is that it's not that the risks are balanced, it's that the Fed has painted themselves into a corner where they will have to unleash the forces of inflation, or they risk seeing the whole system fall apart. And that's why I do think we are likely to see in 2024 the Fed return to a policy of easing. But again, as I've said, it's more than just gold and silver. There's other things I think that are important to be doing. You got to get your food squared away. You got to get your physical health squared away. This is a story from the Wall Street Journal about these Dublin riots. Dublin sees worst rioting in decades after a stabbing attack. This has incited a large amount of anti-immigrant rioting there. At least that's how it's being characterized in the mainstream. I don't pretend to know all the details of what's going on there. I do know that since the Ukraine war broke out, Ireland has taken a disproportionately large number of refugees from that crisis relative to the rest of the EU, and it does seem to be fomenting some discontent there. But listen, one thing you get when you get an economic downturn, high inflation, and a degenerating economy is that these cracks in the social fabric start to show. Combine that with large regional wars, and well, you can see how this becomes a big problem. And so, gold and silver, they might help you a little bit in the event of an economic crisis in terms of preserving your wealth and keeping it out of the hands of financial institutions which may fail. But they're not going to do too much for you if there's social unrest in your neighborhood. So this is why there's other things you need to be doing. You need to be learning to protect yourself. You need to be making sure that you're not too dependent on daily trips to the grocery store. You need to have some food on hand. You need to have some basic materials, some tangible stuff that you can rely on. So if you need to, hunker down and bug in if this sort of thing happens, you're capable of doing that. You don't want it to be like in 2020, people out there panic buying at the last minute, trying to stock up. You want to have that stuff squared away ahead of time, because one of the things that's going to happen in 2024, as I think the forces of inflation are unleashed, probably against a backdrop of a declining overall economy, is civil unrest is going to continue to get worse. We saw just a week or two ago, those huge riots outside the U.S. Air Force Base in Turkey. And you continue to see stories of this type of devolving social fabric, and that's very dangerous because the social fabric that binds us together and creates a society that is ruled by the rule of law is very important for the economy. You want to talk about an economic breakdown. I mean, 2020 was bad enough when it was sort of an artificial shutdown of the economy, but if you start getting riots and that sort of thing, then the economy can really no amount of printing can save it. Let's put it that way. When the situation devolves in that manner. And, on that note, another thing that we need to be on the lookout for in 2024 and getting ready for is broader regional conflicts and all of the things that will come along with that, which likely will include higher commodity prices, higher energy prices, rising inflation, potential scarcity from supply chain breakdowns. I know that we've got this truce, this ceasefire going on in the Middle East right now, but that is not stopping continued attacks on shipping. We have a tanker in the Middle East which was attacked by the Houthis out of Yemen once again. Now, apparently, the U.S. Navy has responded. I don't know exactly in what capacity the U.S. Navy acted here, but apparently the hijackers of this cargo tanker have vacated the premises one way or another. But this just goes to show that, even though there's a ceasefire in effect, we're continuing to see these attacks on ships in the Middle East. We've had several attacks. There was a drone attack in the Indian Ocean on an Israeli linked ship. I think it was yesterday or the day before. There was a ship that was boarded in the Red Sea. So, this kind of a breakdown in the geopolitical situation is going to have some significant ramifications on the market. And of course, there was this story about Xi Jinping visiting San Francisco a couple weeks ago. He was, paraded around. They kicked all the homeless people out of the city streets, I guess, in anticipation of that. And it was a big diplomatic coup. Well, it's just the back to the status quo, basically, in terms of U.S. China relations. They're not really warming the way that we had been led to believe, it looks like. I believe that was just a bit of a head fake with this story out of the South China Morning Post. Beijing rebukes Washington after warning off U.S. warship in South China Sea, with the PLA command calling the U.S. the biggest disruptor of peace in the region, accusing the destroyer of illegally entering waters near contested islands. So, again, this is just another one of these things that could completely flip the script on us in 2024. I mean, you talk about a breakout of hostilities between China and the U.S. in the South China Sea, something that would be greatly complicated by the fact that we have so many naval assets now deployed to the Middle East. This could be, I'm not saying this is like necessarily going to occur, but you get enough of these small probability events and eventually something will happen. And it's not going to be good for our standard of living, unfortunately. Whoever's going to benefit from this, whether it be contractors or, someone on the geopolitical chessboard, very likely for you and me, this is not going to be beneficial. So, listen, a lot of people think that times are tough right now. They are. Prices are very high. If you've been to the grocery store, maybe inflation is slowing down, but it remains high. But now is the time to kind of tighten our belts, I think. Continue to acquire hard assets, continue to prepare, continue to save cash for the sales that may be coming in the event of a significant deflationary event. But keep in mind that long term, the game plan for the US dollar is devaluation. And all you have to do is take a look at the national debt to know that this kind of debt, $33.8 trillion, can only ever be paid off in devalued currency. So that is something that we want to be preparing for in the long term. And look, I know gold and silver have been moving higher. I believe this will be a trend which continues. We can take a look at the long-term chart for gold. We haven't done that in a little while. Still, we have this large cup and handle formation, a very bullish formation on this chart that is still forming, still consolidating here in the handle. But look, the thing that's really going to drive gold and silver higher, I believe, is when this 2100 level up here, we've tested it 3 times so far. When we blow through that, and I think the catalyst for that likely, I mean, who knows what the catalyst will be, but I think the odds are in favor of a pivot by the Federal Reserve, cutting interest rates, beginning to print again sometime in 2024. That's when we're going to see the price of gold and silver really move. Gold is going to blow through that 2100. When it does, sky's the limit. I think we could see $3,000 gold in very short order once that $2,100 level is breached in a significant way. And when that happens, look, the price of silver is going to be along for the ride. But once this bull market really kicks off, silver is going to be moving more than gold, I believe. That's why I like both metals, but Silver's still my number one asset. That's still something I'm looking to acquire more of, despite the fact that the price has moved up. And yes, I do wish I had bought more at lower prices, but I believe the same will be said about today's prices. Now, look, I think it's good to have cash too. Could we see some volatility before that happens? Absolutely. You could see the price of gold and silver come down a bit from where they are, and then I think they'll resume their move up. So it's like, game plan is buy the dips, have dry powder. Don't go buy big screen TVs, blow cash on silly stuff right now. Now's not the time for that. Now's the time to be getting prepared, focusing on what is coming next and making sure that we're doing everything we can to get ready for it. So leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think. Do me a favor, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do that, and I will catch you next time. Stay safe and happy stacking, everybody. Smart Silver Stacker, out.